Hello, and welcome to the Lab Podcast. I'm Kel, and we got Cody here. Hi, say hi, Cody.
What's up?
We're back for a new episode, and today our main topic is going to be ADHD and like struggles and kind of how your ADHD can be affected by exercise and stuff like that. But before we get there, I want to ask how you're doing, Cody. You just had a surgery.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I had surgery on Monday for my arm. It's my arm here. It went pretty well. They had to do a little bit more to it than expected. So I've got a nice skin graft donor area on my leg once again. So that's probably like the most annoying part right now because it just feels like road rash. So it's just very burny. But I was told I need to stay out of the gym for like 4 weeks, but we'll see about that. I mean, it's
already pushing it.
It's kind of subjective sometimes because like some people heal at different rates, and I'll know more at my like first post-op appointment.
Yeah.
But I think, it's always one of those things, you know your body and you can listen to it, of course, not going overboard, but you don't always fall into the lines of their healing timelines because like if you're healthier, you tend to heal a little bit quicker than like the average. Not to say that I'm like the average, like I'm a fast healer.
I mean, you work out for a living.
Yeah,
and you take care of yourself.
Yeah, it's like I try hard, so I feel like I should be able to like heal a little bit quicker. So we'll feel it out. It was a little bit because he didn't really tell me that because he said 3 weeks originally, and then it like went to 3 to 4, and then surgery day he was like 4 weeks, no gym, no like raising your heart rate and stuff. I was just like, well, I'm an anxious person, so I'm just gonna raise it sitting here listening to you say that. So. Yeah, but at least it's done with. Now I just got to get through the all the post-op bullshit. So post-op depression, post-op anxiety, post-op pain, and all that. But well,
when's your first post-op appointment?
Next Monday. So
nice weekend.
Yeah, I'll learn more. I'll get to see my arm. I don't know what it looks like yet.
That's crazy. Well, hopefully it will be worth it all in the end, and you'll get some comfort, or at least a little bit less uncomfort.
Yeah, he said it was pretty tight, so
yeah.
I'm imagining it's gonna help at least a little bit. So that's the payoff.
Fair enough. But
how about you? What's new? How's it going?
Nothing too new, too exciting. 6 weeks out on Saturday, so we're getting closer. Very, very tired this week, but it kind of just grinding at this point. We're just one step at a time, marching.
Yeah, you're in that like suck phase for sure, where it starts to get. Sucky.
Yeah. It everything feels hard, and you don't feel like you're making a ton of forward motion. But yeah, just trusting everything and just doing my best. What I can control.
Yeah, that's all you can do. How's posing going?
Posing's going well. Having a little bit of a scapula issue. I'm not great, and I'm sure you've noticed in my progress pictures, my shoulders just look a little asymmetrical. So I'm going to talk to a physical therapist tomorrow about that. See if we can't get some work done on it or do some work with it. So hopefully that'll help. But
nice.
To be determined.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Sometimes like a sports massage therapist as well can help with that. I do that as well. It's like my right side is always higher, and so I have to like consciously like get myself to lower it down. I feel like everyone has some like one little shoulder abnormality that you have to really focus on. So is it your right or your left side?
It's my left side.
Okay. Mine's my right, but yeah. Well, hopefully that helps.
I'm hoping, like, because right now I can control it, but it's just like a lot more physical work, as it should just be where it's supposed to be. As far as I can, it's probably just some injury that didn't heal right or whatever, but who knows? Or I'm getting old and falling apart.
I mean, you are competing in masters, right? I mean,
that's true.
Partially. Once you hit 35 plus, it's just like, meh, it's just my body. Just kidding. There's people out here like, it doesn't have to be that way. But anyways.
Yeah. So, well, have you been watching Olympics yet?
So, not really. I've been mostly just watching the outrage. That's pretty entertaining as well. It's something. Every week there is something. Yeah. First they're mad about the opening ceremony, and then they're mad about this boxer. So, I don't know how to say her name. We were
so what we were practicing it before the show with full disclosure. So the best pronunciation that we came up with was Ayman Khalif. Yeah. She is an Algerian boxer who, in an early match, I think it was her first match of the Olympics, the opponent stopped the fight. And,
yeah, so it was like an Italian boxer who forfeited after like the first 42, 46 seconds, something along those lines. And that kind of started the outrage because she was just like, I've never been hit so hard in my life. And she just forfeited. And that's because people started calling the Algerian boxer a man. But they are not a man. There's still like no one knows absolute specifics because it's her medical history, and that's obviously
it's none of our fucking business.
Yeah, but we do know there's the possibility of her being like intersex, and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit confusing, and I think a lot of people are going around saying that she still has XY chromosomes. It's just she has DSD, which DSD, what does that stand for? Disorders of sex development. But I think in her case, essentially, it's like the Y chromosome doesn't respond to the androgens or something. So they still just develop female. So like female genitals, everything female except for your chromosomes, essentially. But it does cause her to have higher testosterone levels. And that's where they're saying in the past she failed a gender test because they have like, gender testing, probably just testing testosterone levels in general. So I think there is at one point someone said that they had to take medications to kind of suppress the testosterone a little bit. But in that case, she was raised female. She has female parts.
She's always boxed female also.
Yeah, has competed in the last Olympics. It's not like she won gold. No one even batted an eye.
Knew who she was.
No. So it wasn't until this other Italian boxer just like forfeited and like started crying and stuff. And it's like, I don't mean to be an asshole here, but like when you go, maybe it's just me, but if I work my whole ass life to get something, to get to the Olympics, you can throw a fucking bear in the ring and I will box that shit. Like, I'm not going to just give up after 46 seconds after getting a hard punch to the face. Like, she was fine. Her face wasn't even like swollen or anything. Like, it was just bizarre.
Also, I do also believe that it wasn't her, like, the Italian boxer wasn't the one who was having issues with her gender and stuff. She just sounded like she biffed the fight and didn't want to fight. Because I don't, at least the media coverage I saw didn't sound like the opponent was the one who started all this gender stuff.
I think in maybe an accidental way she started it, but because there was some like, I guess, you know, Khalif, we'll just call the last name, like tried to shake her hand or something, and she wouldn't do it, or she just, you know, kind of was just like, and there was just, I think the press conference later, she was saying she's never been hit so hard in her life and stuff like that. So that kind of like started things
That
rolling.
started it all.
Of being like, oh, well, it's because she's a man and stuff like that. And so that's where everyone started speculating. Saw that she failed a gender test at some point, and that's where, you know, everything kind of went to shit, and everyone said she was trans. And it's like, guess what? It's illegal to be trans in Algeria. Why would they choose like a trans person to represent their country when it's illegal? But also, this is putting her in danger. I feel like
grave danger. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, and I think the biggest thing that was so infuriating was the misinformation. Everyone all just like straight up went and called her a man. They didn't even do their due diligence. They did not research further besides being like, she looks like a man, she must be a man. Because all these transgenders, they want to compete in the Olympics. Like, there's literally none. Like,
no, there's a one non-binary person.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like a runner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, but outside of that, there's no trans women. So they just want to like, they'll find anything. Like, they hate the trans community so much that they're just like searching for something to hate.
Anything.
Yeah. And even people who are in the LGBT community, like Jillian Michaels, I'm just gonna call her straight the fuck out. I feel like she's losing her relevance in the world, and she's been like red pilled to the point where she was saying stuff about it's not transphobic to say that, you know, a biological man shouldn't be competing. And it's just like, she's not like a man, Jillian. This is the thing, you know. It's like, you gotta do your research, and you know how we. So it's definitely, we're not going to trust her on her, you know, misinformation about Ozempic and mastering your metabolism, and she can't even do her due diligence to like. It takes 5 minutes to research that this boxer actually might be intersex, is not trans, and we don't know the reality of. We don't even know if their chromosomes are XY. This is all just speculation. It could just be that they have higher T levels. Maybe they have PCOS. You know.
Yeah. Well, and it can be so many things. Like, we don't do this to all athletes. Like, that's the thing that I don't get, is that like everybody is going to have genetic variation. That's like how the whole thing works. Yeah. And we need the genetic variation because of that. And I feel like as science gets like further along and technology becomes more available to everybody, everyone feels like they have a right to know everything about everyone, and it's very disturbing.
Yeah, and I think people are just going to get more and more hurt by their trying to do this like gender detective bullshit, because people now, they're like, oh, I can always tell. It's like, but can you? And you just end up hurting people. And this poor, you know, woman who has worked her ass off to get where she's at, and to be bullied and harassed online, like, that's not fair. And what's even worse is that people just kept doubling down, and they're still calling her a man, instead of apologize. Like, some people that apologized, very few, but there was a lot who did not. They still didn't care, and they still don't think she should be competing. And it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. Well,
and that's what makes it even worse, because like, think of this person's at the height of their career as an athlete, and that is a tremendous amount of pressure already. And then all this stuff comes through, and it's just like, oh my gosh, talk about a hard mentality to be able to work in that mindset. And I just read an article that they are going into the gold medal match. So with all this baggage, and I can't imagine being able to perform and quiet your head down enough to feel like you can compete and not feel like you shouldn't give it your all.
Yeah. I mean, or it's just more fuel, more motivation. I could see that being a thing. Like, I know I'd be pretty revved up, be like, all right, You gonna
let's do this
me?
then.
Yeah, like you want to be hit like a man. So yeah, it's crazy, and I think there was another rugby player too that was getting shit, just because she had broader shoulders, or she was heavier, and you probably know her name. I don't know her name, or maybe you're not following rugby either.
Alana Mar, is it?
Possibly
the popular person who's on rugby.
Yeah,
it's Alana Mar. Yeah.
Okay, and I know like all female athletes are starting to get more shit because people keep thinking that they're men. Like if they have broader shoulders or they're just more muscular, then more people are like, "Oh, you look like a man," and all that stuff. And I'm over here like with a full ass beard, and they're still telling me I look like a woman. I'm like,
I don't think they know.
No, like you fucking suck. Make up your mind. If I decided, hypothetically speaking, say I decide to detransition, I would get called a man the rest of my life. Like maybe that's what I gotta do. But like I'm detransitioning, be like, you sound like a man. Thank you. Because now they tell me I sound like a woman. So yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying the rugby, specifically the rugby kind of upsurge. I don't know if rugby is always very big on all of my algorithms because Maddie plays and I watch it a lot. But I feel like it's been even more popular recently with the recent win. And I've really loved all of the kind of attention they've got because rugby is kind of a cool sport. And I know this is a tangent, so I'll be quicker about it. But the nice thing about rugby is that it counts and welcomes all body size and shape. So there's a position in rugby for anybody. And that's like the whole thing. Like there's a place for the short person. There's a place for the person in a larger body. There's a place for the tall, skinny guy. There's a place for everybody. And those can be very technical and important parts of the game.
Yeah.
But Maddie is gearing up for coaching this fall and with high school kids, and the interest has been a lot bigger. So I think I do think the population, maybe the masses, are headed in a good direction, but there's always going to be those terrible keyboard.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome though, because I wish I played rugby when I was younger. I'd die now, but like it looks so much fun, and it's rough, and like that's the kind of sports that I enjoy. Like it's very physical.
Yeah. Well, and another cool thing about rugby is that the men and women's rules are all exactly the same. There's no changes, which I know is always infuriating. I don't know if you've like ever played like lacrosse, but there's differences in men's and women's lacrosse in the rules. There's same with like a couple other sports like volleyball and stuff, but the balls are the same size, the field's the same size.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because even with basketball, soccer, the balls are a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. I think the 3-point line might be in a little bit further, but it's just like we don't even need that.
Why?
It's not necessary.
Yeah, no one needs that. Yeah.
Women are completely capable of shooting a ball just as far away from the hoop as men. It's fine.
Yeah, they don't need a handicap actually. So
no. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, watch rugby if you haven't given it a chance. I'm telling the whole internet.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing we've got going on outside of that is obviously the political climate is what is a big thing that's that's contributing to all of the outrage, because there's just a bunch of people that are outraged right now.
Yeah,
like we need to find something. Pissed. And the thing that just like makes me kind of laugh hysterically, but also kind of sad because it's so dumb, is that people were using this boxer as an example of what was going to happen to women's sports if Kamala Harris was elected. But like the president has like no fucking say in the
Olympics, international thing.
like Joe Biden was is Joe Biden at fault now? Because it's like, what are you talking about? And so there's just this outcry of people pretending to care about women's sports, and the people who are pretending to care about women's sports are the same fucking people that didn't even think women should play sports in the first place. But it's like suddenly you care because you just hate trans people that much. And it's it's ridiculous. And I don't know if we want to go into the political realm, but there's new stuff there where, you know, Kamala Harris chose her vice president. Did you see who
I'm
that
so
was?
excited. Yeah,
Okay.
Tim Walz.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure
I'm
if she
very
was going
excited
to
about that.
choose Shapiro because everything was like pointing towards
Mm-hmm.
him, but she kind of surprised, like chose him. But he seems like a pretty cool guy from what I've seen. So hopefully,
Yeah.
like, that goes well.
Yeah, I saw that he is really good for trans folks, he's a proponent of recreational weed, which I also enjoy. So I mean, he seems pretty solid. He's a Midwest boy. You know, I'm a Midwest guy, so
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm very excited about the presidential pick or the vice presidential pick, and I feel like I'm setting myself up, but like I am feeling a lot of more hope in this election.
yeah,
But um,
yeah.
hopefully it's for I'm not getting it up in vain. But
I
that
know.
sounded dirty. But
It's just hard to like feel hopeful because we've been here before and did not go well. So
right.
yeah, it's scary, and I think, you know. So I watched two documentaries in the past couple days about Christian nationalism. I don't know if you're familiar, but essentially it's just like Christians who want to make it, you know, a theocracy, you know, not a democracy, and they
Mm-hmm.
want, you know, Christian nationalism to be what we follow, what everyone believes, and Handmaid's Tale shit, right? So there's this documentary on Amazon Prime called Bad Faith. Highly recommend. There's also another one. It's like God something. We watched both of them. Both of them. They're both very similar, but it goes through like the history of the church, and like Christian nationalism was actually used to like continue segregation, and just all the things. And it's interesting, you know, the history of it, and how it's all unfolded, and how people think we are a Christian nation. We were built on Christian principles. It's just like, no, we were not. That is a lie. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no kidding.
it's a good documentary. Bad Faith. Watch it if you haven't. It's scary though, because it's possible. We keep moving more and more in that direction, and you know, the whole Project 225 thing.
20, yeah.
It's not a thing. You know, like how possible it's gonna be, I don't know, but we know that they would implement it if they could. So.
Yeah, I was very excited though when Barstool Sports, you know, like the mecca of the Rogan-esque type, announced made it public that the Project 2025 has no porn or a ban on porn, and I'm like, yes, this is what we need. We need that to become very aware. No porn. We're cutting it all off. And
they're like, oh shit,
get the men behind
we
it.
can't vote for this one anymore.
Never mind. Never mind.
Just like in the I don't know if you saw during the Republican National Convention, apparently Grinder was very busy. Yeah. Like, shocker, not really.
Not shocked. Not shocked at all.
Yeah. So, anyways,
but it makes me so sad and scared. So I've been doing a lot of balancing with the political climate with the Golden Girls. So that's the way I'm coping.
That's good balance.
But let's get into our main topic. You ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, ADHD. I was recently diagnosed this past year, in 2024. How about you, Cody? How long have you been?
I was diagnosed in 2020 or 2021, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I've been taking medication.
You've learned
for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just recently switched to Adderall from Ritalin.
Nice. How has the switch gone?
Pretty good. I do think it helps me a little. I actually took this DNA test where it tells you what medications work a little bit better or not so great for your body. And it told me that Ritalin wasn't as effective for me and I should try Adderall. So I presented that to my psychiatrist and they're like, okay. And they just switched me over and it seems to help a little bit. So maybe it's nice. You never know with these DNA test things, but I figured, hey, why not? But yeah.
Why not try it? Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, it seems to be working.
Yeah, I'm actually not on any kind of stimulant meds for my ADHD, not yet. I didn't want to like start new things during prep, really.
Yeah.
But I've been doing a lot of like mind work and working with my therapist for like strategies and stuff to help. I'm also on Wellbutrin though, because apparently that's like the non-stimulant thing that they give to help give you more dopamine, I believe.
Yeah. Apparently that's what ADHD is all about. You know, like, should I read like what ADHD is, just in case people are just like,
yeah, let's do it,
brand new to earth? But so it's a chronic condition including attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. So this is why it often goes undiagnosed, though, I think, because we look for these particular symptoms and they present themselves differently in individuals, which is why we're probably diagnosed so late. But because it says it often begins in childhood and can persist into adulthood and may contribute to low self-esteem, troubled relationships, and difficulty at school or work. Symptoms include limited attention and hyperactivity. Treatments include medication and talk therapy. So main symptoms: being unable to sit still, especially in calm or quiet surroundings, constantly fidgeting, being unable to concentrate on tasks, excessive physical movement, excessive talking, being unable to wait their turn, acting without thinking, and interrupting conversations. And there's more, and there's other things that we keep learning more and more about it. But that's kind of the gist. And it's why, like, I was so quiet. I would have never gotten diagnosed as a kid, but I internalize everything. So even if I'm like not talking a lot, my anxiety it's just going. So yeah.
I have a lot of the inattention issues. I was never really a talker either. So I think that I similar to you, I would never have got diagnosed as a kid. Like my mom used to get so pissed because on my report cards, it always said how quiet I was. But yeah, so no diagnosis as a kid for me, but I did pull up some in my like research. I've been putting together a couple of documents like how ADHD and fitness and nutrition and stuff all interact, because I've been really fascinated with it. And I have a couple statistics if you want me to share.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Cool. All right. So a study published in the in a research journal found after 20 minutes of moderate intense exercise, adults with ADHD showed significant improvements in their executive function, reporting a 12% improvement in planning, organizational skills, and 16% improvement in task switching abilities. I think that a lot of the stuff I've seen and kind of really dug into is how important routines are to folks with ADHD and helping stay regulated and self-regulated. So I did think that was really interesting, and that the stats are showing a support for that as well. I know you also love a routine. Do you think it's because of your ADHD or your personality?
You know, like I still can't figure it out. I think it definitely helps my ADHD. I think it's something I put in place to help with it, but it also helps with my anxiety. And like I recently got a new diagnosis of OCD, which I'm just going to be starting treatment with, which that could be a whole nother topic because holy shit. But it depends who you talk to. Like when I talked to my therapist last, I was just kind of, I'm still in the phase of like, where do I fit into this? and like how do I individually show symptoms, kind of like with ADHD, where we're all kind of different. And she thinks that my actual routine might be kind of a compulsion. And so I'm like, well, great. But can I keep that one? Because like it serves me. And I think as long as it's not like distressing to you, right. Then they'll like be okay with it. But I think it's a combination of things. It's like I got a whole party bag of mental illnesses going on.
Oh, that's hilarious. So the next little stat I had is that research published in the Journal of Attention Disorders found that 6-week aerobic exercise program led to a 30% reduction in ADHD symptoms in adults. Participants reported improvements in attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. So I think the following through with a consistent program that lasts a long time, I think can do a lot for a person with ADHD and kind of what the science is showing. And it looks like it's helping kind of all aspects of the mental illness. Or is ADHD considered a mental illness or disorder?
Probably disorder.
Yeah. But it's pretty fascinating. Also, I found one more that was a 12-week study. After 12 weeks of exercise, showed 15% improvement in cognitive performance, including a better working memory and faster processing speeds. And these are all specific to adults with ADHD and people who were diagnosed late in life. So pretty cool.
I ran into this, I need to get his name real quick, but I ran into this guy who has a podcast about ADHD, and I really liked the way that he spun it, because he essentially spun it in a positive light, because a lot of times he kind of gets a bad rap where it's you can't pay attention, you're distracted and stuff, but he's like, it's actually a superpower if you can get your attention to like direct it into the right spot, then it can be a superpower. And he's an ADHD coach. I just need to get his name if anyone wants to. So it's Sam Led. Essentially, it's like
Led, Lead.
Just LED. Sam Led. Oh, okay. He has a podcast. I think it's only on Apple Podcasts, but he also has an Instagram. But he just is really super positive about it. And I think that's always important to know that I like how he said he basically was like, ADHD doesn't necessarily exist. You just have a different brain, like, yeah, you're neurodivergent. You think differently, you process things differently, but it's not a disorder. I kind of like that.
I like it too. I saw something in one of my, somewhere, I forget who said it, but I saw it on social media. It's a project, not a personal attack. And I thought that was really interesting, because I think a lot of people want to make it go away. They're like, how can I cure it? What's the pill I can take to get rid of this? And I do think a lot of what can be done is more of like a harnessing of it, like a bridling of the attention, right? And the ability to focus in, because it's not that we can't focus. Sometimes we can focus really hard on certain things, but it's being able to kind of regulate that habit.
Yeah. And he's really good at, like, he was just saying, when's the time you have the most energy on focus, and like put your most important tasks in those time frames. So it's just essentially like learning yourself and learning how to work around it the best you can. But yeah, just recommend checking them out if anyone's struggling with their ADHD.
Absolutely. You want to go through some common struggles that folks with ADHD have in the fitness journey? Then we can kind of go through tips and tricks.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, dope. All right, so I'm just going to kind of rattle off the list, and then we'll go into our overall tips. Does that sound okay?
Yep, go for it.
Dope. All right. So difficulty with routine. So establishing and sticking to a regular exercise routine can be tough. Motivation and procrastination. Sustaining motivation over a long time can be difficult.
Yeah.
Procrastination and a tendency to get easily distracted can hinder a lot of progress. You see that a lot in folks with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Boredom. So doing the same thing over and over can get very tiresome, and you can lose interest. It's hard to stay engaged. Impulsivity. So impulsive behavior that can lead to sporadic or inconsistent patterns, which will slow progress. Time management issues, so balancing time between workouts and everything else in life, and issues with that prioritization of how to fit things into your schedule. Maintaining like self-regulating in general, so managing energy levels and emotions when you're and letting those kind of rule your day. Of course, goal setting and tracking. So setting realistic goals and being able to track the progress to those. Focus. So staying focused during a workout, especially in a really busy gym. Sleep and recovery. So making sure that you're getting enough sleep and are having enough energy through the day. And then nutritional habits. So maintaining a healthy diet can be challenging with impulsivity, cravings, and then like safe foods is what another one.
Yeah.
Is there anything I missed in there that you deal with a lot?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that just about lays it all out, and it just shows like certain things I've put in place to, even if it's subconsciously, like the routine, for example.
Yeah.
And the distraction aspect can definitely be hard. So I know even if you own your own business and have ADHD, that's another whole like, you really got to stay
That's
on
a whole
task.
nother ball game.
Yeah. So it's like learning how to not pay attention to all of the little things like, notifications. You're working on programming, you get emails, and you're like trying to switch back and forth as least as possible. Like, don't do it, stay on one task. But I think I've worked with a lot of people with ADHD as well. And I do think that the boredom thing or the impulsivity is like the biggest thing I notice, or just the organization, being able to get organized to do some sort of meal prep or like prioritizing is huge. And that's where like time management, that's probably, I think, the biggest thing is time management, because that's where everything falls in and out of place. So finding ways to, manage your time that works for you. And I just learned that through routine. But that being said, like if you give me an appointment, I'll probably still be a little bit late. So it's like, I gotta really, make sure I'm on top of everything and just be aware that my personality, I procrastinated. I've always procrastinated my whole life. I did see one thing though where someone's like, I don't have ADHD, I just love deadlines. And I was just like, you know what? That's good.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't know I had ADHD, but like I have been such a particular person my whole life that like I'm like, how the fuck did I not know this? Because I literally have a system for everything in my life, and these were all coping strategies I found out. But I know the one that I feel like I see the most often, especially in clients, is that time management, but the ability to roll with the punches. I think folks with ADHD have a really hard time moving through issues. So I think that like keeping the level head when shit hits the fan kind of thing is one of the big issues I see a lot.
And I think there's also like there's a lot of overlap, because I was doing some research, my own, because OCD, ADHD, anxiety, and autism, they all kind of you're like, what is it? And it could
Very
actually be,
close.
could be all of them. So it's actually, there's a statistic. So the percentage of people with autism spectrum disorder who also have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder varies with an estimates ranging from 28 to 78 to 70%. So if you have ADHD, there's more likelihood that you may also be autistic. And then the same with like, so OCD and ADHD and autism. So literally, like ADHD, OCD, and autism are just they have very they're all have overlapping traits. Uh, so it's a so it basically it's like autism, ADHD, and OCD have common symptoms and are linked by some of the same genes. So, yet historically, they have been studied as separate disorders. Together, these three neurodevelopmental disorders affect roughly 15% of children and youth. So it could just be that you've got the whole shebang.
The gambit. Yeah. Yeah, I did see that a lot of those disorders are very like comorbid, I believe is what the fancy term is for it, to each other. But I do like to say, like, let's get back on that positive note of this is a superpower, not a disorder necessarily. Per se. Let's go through some tips and tricks. What's your first and favorite?
Routine, obviously. Like find a routine, stick to it because it helps you prioritize. And that's, I think, the biggest issue when it comes to ADHD is prioritizing. You just have chaos in your brain. You can't even like organize. So even if that's making time every day, set 20 minutes aside to plan out your day. First thing, then that's going to save you so much chaos and time just in the long run. So I would say that would be my number one tip. How about you?
Yeah, I really like routine, and kind of to go along with it is I really like time blocking. And I know it's nerdy, but it helps me so much. I'm a time blocker, but I also use timers to help me do that and like enforce it. So, and this is not a system that would work for everybody, but because I am self-employed and have a bunch of things in the air, essentially what I'll do is I'll go through my routine and look at the things I have to get done, and then I'll like bucket them out. So like, these are house things I need to get done. These are fitness things I need to get done. This is work stuff I need to get done. And then I'll assign certain time buckets for each of those tasks. So like from 10 to 11, I'm going to work on work, and then I'll switch at whenever. And then I set timers for all that. And that helps me a ton because it helps me stay on task without thinking about it. And the less I think about things, the less I screw up or dread them. So that helps me.
Yeah. No. Do you use the Pomodoro technique where it's like you set for like 20, 25 minutes and you just work until it's done, and then you can like take a little break? I do that a lot because it helps me not to get distracted during those like 20, 25 minutes. So that's another one.
I usually do like progress breaks. So like if I have like say 2 hours blocked off to write or something, after every post I do a 4-minute break, and it's 4 minutes of whatever I want, and then I get back. And then so I do that's like a reward system that I do.
I mean, yeah,
that's my third tip.
Would you say like, I guess, you know, we're trying to spin it more positively, and like honestly I do feel like it's a superpower, especially for owning your own business, because when you're passionate about something, I feel like, you know, you have that hyper focus and you can get things done. Do you think that owning your own business actually makes ADHD harder or easier?
I think it depends on if you understand your ADHD or not.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and how much you manage it. Because I had a really hard time at the beginning when I was owning my business. just because it is really hard to not get distracted. That was my biggest issue.
Yeah.
Because I was working out of my kitchen and it was a shit show. But I think now it helps me a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm way more productive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think, same. Once you realize how to work with it, then you can use it to your advantage. So I feel like if I would have gone undiagnosed or something, would be potentially more harmful. So again, it's like you said, it's just about understanding yourself and making things work for you. But that goes for anybody, whether you have ADHD or not. You get distracted. There's so much going on in the world that is easily, takes our attention span, which is probably one of the reasons we all are so distracted all the time. Like,
so true.
Our attention spans just get, smaller and smaller. So, yeah.
Well, and I think, especially I think after that statistic you just said about how it's so common that people will have several disorders, quote unquote. I think we just really, as a people, need to understand that everybody's struggling with something differently. Like, we don't all have the same brain.
Right.
Therefore, not the same system's going to work for everybody. But I think knowing and seeing more systems that might work for folks, I think just helps in general. Like, well, if my system doesn't work, maybe Cody's system was. And if Cody's system doesn't work, maybe this person's system works. It's just about finding the right path and system that works in your life for your purpose.
Yeah.
So I think that keeping that in mind when you're trying to figure out this, as opposed to thinking, oh, I have ADHD, I'm broken, or I can't do that because of my ADHD.
Right. It's like, just don't use it as an excuse, because it's not something that's going to prevent you from doing what you want to do, like, whatsoever. We're basically walking examples of that. It's just like owning your own business. You really do need to be on top of things, but it's not impossible. You can. It takes more planning and effort, but again, not impossible.
That's what I kind of like to. I always like to zoom out, because I'm like, look at us. We are trans men living in 2024. Like, we are already saying fuck it to all these things that say you can't do what you want to do. Might as well chalk this up in there too.
Yes.
What's your next tip, Cody?
It's all the hard things that people don't want to do. And it's like, meal prep, please, for the love of fucking God, please meal prep, because the impulsivity is a thing, a big thing, where it's like, if you don't have something, you're not going to just like order something healthy. You're going to order whatever the fuck you want, because you want that dopamine hit. I guess like our dopamine receptors aren't as good, so we need like bigger hits. Is that right? Okay.
I think so.
So it's like you just need more and more of that. So I think a lot of people tend to stress eat who have ADHD, or like emotionally eat, because they're trying to get those dopamine hits. So it's like, or sometimes even if you do meal prep, you're looking for that dopamine hit, but you got to make it non-optional. Like, do not give yourself that option. Like, you prep the food, you put the effort in, you paid the money, eat the food you prepped, like if you prepped it in the first place. But no more last minute chaos decisions. That's where it really, really gets out of hand. That's just what,
yeah. Well, and I think it's the letting each other off the hook. I think that is a big issue, is that kind of lack of personal accountability. It's very easy to get dysregulated as a person with ADHD, which means your emotions are going to be not necessarily in your control. And when you're not in control of your emotions, that you're not thinking clearly, and once you have all the emotions up front, it's like having sunglasses on and expecting to be able to read something dark. So I think making sure that you understand at least how to at least to spot when you're dysregulated, so that you can make more informed choices. So I like to think about that moment, the moment where the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
I think that next decision is the most important thing.
Yeah. And I just thought of like something that's been helpful for me that it's like very minimal that you wouldn't think about. So there's actually like playlists on Spotify for absolutely everything ADHD. So if you just do like ADHD focus, then there's like all these playlists for if you have ADHD. It's like it's just perfect for work, but also just to like calm you down. Because if you have anxiety, so it's like ADHD calm or whatever. So it's almost like I have a playlist throughout my day. I'm always listening to something to like bring me back down to earth, not be as impulsive, calm me down so I can plan ahead. Because if your brain is too busy, then you're just going to be stuck in chaos and you're going to be making those impulsive decisions, not following your routine, not following your schedule. So I think it's all about learning how to like calm yourself down a little bit.
Yeah. To kind of go off that, when you do calm yourself down, I really like the idea of flexibility and being able to because as someone with ADHD, you're gonna want variety while simultaneously want safe things that are going to be comforting to you, and you got to do it still. So keeping things flexible. So when you're just trying to move more, you're really starting to get into your exercise program. Don't say I'm going to go to the gym at 4 p.m. every day that week and only give yourself that option.
Yeah.
Because what if something hits the fan? You've created no flexibility. So what I like to tell people is let's focus on getting movement in the after work. That way we've kept a flexible time, we've kept a flexible activity, but we're still maintaining a boundary. So after work, but keeping it flexible. So that's kind of what I would also like to tell people.
Yeah, it's like rigid flexibility, where it's like
rigid flexibility.
If you can follow your original plan and schedule, do it. If something gets thrown your way, have a plan B. Versus like having a plan, then getting to 4 p.m. movement time, and you're like, I think I'll do that tomorrow. Like, no, that's not a hurdle life's thrown at you. That's your decision. You can't.
That's a decision.
Yeah, like you gotta determine.
That's just you got couch trapped. Yeah.
So be aware of your own thought process and don't let yourself convince yourself. Don't talk yourself out of the things you're supposed to do.
Right, and that's why keeping it third party, keeping it out of your hands. You're the boss, but you also have to be the boss. You have to get shit done still.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think I was just thinking about like, it's funny because I feel like the thing that doesn't fit me for ADHD is I will, sometimes I will crave something fresh, like my surroundings. I don't like to stay in my same surroundings. I've stayed in this apartment for the longest I've ever stayed in an apartment, but I do like my day to day to be very similar. I don't need a lot of variety in that, or like food, a little variety here and there, but I can essentially eat something until I get tired of it and then do something new. But I'm not someone who needs constant variety in my life. So it's like, that isn't very fitting. Maybe that's like the OCD aspect of things that just reels that in. I don't know. But I think there's some things that you can like fight through. Just because you want variety doesn't mean that you need it necessarily. Because you're just kind of rewarding your brain with the dopamine of variety, but it doesn't, if it's not productive for you, then can we have a little bit less, because to make progress in fitness, you need to not just switch up your routine all the time or else you're not going to get anywhere. When it comes to food, if you want to keep things simple and not overwhelming, you're going to need a little less variety. So I feel like there's this little bit of that's areas where it might be harder, but we might need to work through that or push through that, because it's really hard to be successful with too much variety in your nutrition and your workout routine. Just because, yeah.
Well, there's variety and then there's chaos, and
right,
so we want to make sure that we're staying away from the chaos and staying in the variety lane.
Yeah.
So you have some choices, but you don't have unlimited choices.
Right. Like maybe give yourself 3 menu options and stick with that.
Yeah. Or allow yourself to change it up once a week as opposed to once every 2 months.
Yeah.
There's compromise to be made, but you can't change nothing and expect something to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any other tips or tricks that you wanted to go over before we wrap it up?
I don't
get
think
into our
so.
hour mark.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's about it. We can talk about it more as we learn more about ourselves.
Absolutely. And if people are interested in this kind of thing, let us know. And please share with your friends. We want to get a bigger audience.
Yeah. And leave us some comments. Leave us some love because it's been so lonely.
Leave us some love. Yes, we are lonely. All right, Cody, what do you got for us for our power talk today?
Yeah, so this one, it's funny, I actually posted this to my story today because I figured I just liked it. But yeah, so power talk quote. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing which you think you cannot do, and that is by Eleanor Roosevelt. So yeah, I just like that because there's so many things I'm afraid of. And like you have to face them anyways. But the thing is, whenever you do actually face those fears, you grow so much and you learn so much more of what you're capable of, and it pushes you further. And you're thinking, all right, what's next? What else can I push through? So yeah, I like that because you're going to be afraid. I'm scared of pretty much everything. But you do it anyways.
I like that a lot. I'm also afraid a lot, but the nice thing about fear is that if you overcome it, it becomes easier to overcome again. Mm-hmm. So getting those reps in definitely helps.
Yeah, it's exposure therapy. Just keep pushing yourself into the fear and it starts to come down eventually. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, everybody, and I'll talk to you later, Cody.
Yeah. Peace out. Leave us some comments. Yeah. Bye.